Hello and welcome to GeekVerse Sidequest, your weekly stop for video game news, reviews, and more. Here on the GeekVerse Podcast Network, I'm your host, Dylan Musk, and I have with me the hot and ready Taylor Field. How are you doing on this day off Monday here?
I'm doing quite well. It's nice to have these 3-day weekends. Really appreciate it. Just some repercussion is not the word I was gonna say. Recess, reprieve,
Reprieve,
in our
yeah?
word. Yeah.
Reprieve is good. Reprieve is a great word. Yeah, did
There
you
we
get
go.
much done this weekend, or was it more just being a dad is like, well, we didn't get much done, but it was a little extra time to just
Yeah,
sink in.
A little bit of dad work, but we got to do some other things that we need to take care of, which is always great.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. We have a fun show, probably be a little more chill, low-key sort of one, but excited nonetheless. We're going to break down these Game Award nominees. We're not going to break them down fully. We're just going to get some reactions because that did drop today, but I guess probably the week before the Game Awards actually happens, we are going to get all four of us together for our predictions as we do. So me and Taylor are just going to do some quick reactions here to the drops. I'll talk about some of the games we've been playing. Modern Warfare 3 is the new one for you. Jusant is the new one for me. And whatever else you've been playing, and all that sort of thing. So, yeah, just in terms of the shout-outs here, make sure to join that Discord. It's always good talking with people in there about the news, gaming news. Patreon's a good place to get episodes early and ad-free. And in particular, because next week, Taylor, I think me and you are going to record a ranking of every single Mario Kart 8 course. That'll probably be up on Patreon a few days early for people, so a good time to jump in there. And then also our bread and butter for this month is another gaming-related one. So 2 months in a row, you're getting kind of bonus gaming content on Patreon. So a good time to go over there and check that out. And I think that's pretty much it. Next week is going to be a Mario-centric episode. I'm going to have Travis on. We're going to talk about Mario RPG. Probably talk about... He hasn't shared his thoughts on Mario Wonder yet, so I'll probably do that and all that stuff. So that should be a fun episode as well. Yeah, I think with that, let's get into it. So I wanted to get your opinion on these Game Award nominees. I'm going to bring this up on the screen so you can see it here. Have you looked at these at all, or is this fresh?
No, this is absolutely fresh.
We're getting a pure reaction. So make a reaction to this. This is the
It's
Game Award
of the Year.
Game of the Year nominees. What's your immediate reaction?
I'm not surprised at all,
Okay.
except for maybe Mario Bros. Wonder.
Yeah. That
That's
stood
kinda
out to me
surprising.
as well. So for anyone who hasn't seen this yet, Game of the Year, the 6 nominees this year are Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Marvel's Spider-Man 2, Resident Evil 4, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. So Mario Wonder surprised me too. Great game, super fun. We've talked about it here, but is it really a Game of the Year contender? And this year, that was surprising to me to see that over, I don't know, a couple, like over Final Fantasy, over a Starfield. I was pretty shocked to see that. I don't know if there's some recency on that, or maybe people just. I mean, I love the game. I think it's great. It's to me there's different tiers of Game of the Year sort of stuff. And Mario
Totally.
Wonder it's a top 10er of the year for me, but it's not cracking top 5 in that caliber.
Totally.
Mhm.
Yeah. But it's a
I
good
would-
list.
Yeah, it's good. I was surprised to see Resident Evil 4. I just felt like that. Maybe it's not shocking because Resident Evil 2, that remake a few years ago, really blew the roof off, and for a lot of people, that was their Game of the Year. And I just felt like maybe Resident Evil 4. Now that we've had a couple of these really HD remakes, people aren't as surprised or shocked by them. And I felt like the conversation on Resident Evil 4 seems pretty minimal this year. I love it, so I'm happy it's in here. But I was surprised to see it. And then the other ones I mentioned, Starfield not making an appearance, and Starfield only makes one appearance in all 31 of these categories. So yeah, really. I don't know. I guess that's just the group of people that vote on this thing. They're lower on it. So it's interesting to me though. I thought it would have popped up a couple more times than it did. But also the game has a ton of issues, so I'm not like mad about it. It was just kind of intriguing. I don't know if Final Fantasy is shocking to me. To not see that here, 16, I don't think that really shocked a lot of people. But, I mean, going into this, I feel like the conversation has been like, it's a 2-horse race between Baldur's Gate and Tears of the Kingdom. And then there'll be 4 other nominees. And I would even put maybe Spider-Man in that conversation, although I think those two are going to eclipse it, and one of those is probably going to win it. So we're not going to make predictions here. But also, Alan Wake 2 is not too surprising for me to see, because I just feel like reviews and the conversation on that game have been super, super hot. So hopefully I get to that point with it. I need to get a bit further in, I think. But yeah, that was interesting to see. I think the direction category is almost the exact same. Just Resident Evil 4 is taken out, which kind of makes sense considering it is a remake of a game that's been directed before, I guess. But I'm just gonna quickly zoom through a couple of these and see if anything else interesting pops up.
Similar ones there.
Yeah, interesting. Like Cyberpunk, Phantom Liberty, that DLC is in Best Narrative. That's kind of.
I'm happy to see Cyberpunk get a little love here. That's nice.
Yeah.
And Keanu came back for that DLC too.
He must have. I know Idris Elba was like the big new character, but I'm sure there was probably some new lines that needed to be recorded for. My God, what the hell's his name in that game? I forget what I forget what the name of his character is. Art direction, nothing too shocking there. Score and music. There's a couple categories that stood out to me. Sorry, something surprised you here with audio?
Oh, just Dead Space. Dead Space. That's the remake. Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of forget about that because that came out in January. I think this is like the first new game of the year. Performance. What do you think about this? You got your boy Cameron Monaghan, I guess you pronounce that, from Star
Cameron
Wars.
Monaghan. You got it. Yeah.
Yeah, which is funny because he looks exactly like the character, obviously. So it's funny seeing all these other guys who. Well, I guess even Idris Elba looks a lot like his character in Cyberpunk. They kind of modeled it after him. The rest of these are like, these people don't look like the characters they're playing necessarily. Interesting there. One thing that's interesting to me, it's not shocking because of how many people were boycotting it, but Hogwarts Legacy doesn't have a single nom in any category. Now, I'm not expecting it to be like Game of the Year contender, but I was kind of shocked to, once again, I shouldn't be shocked because I know specifically a lot of the outlets that are part of the voting thing, and I listened to their podcasts and whatnot. A lot of them boycotted the game, so it makes sense that it just wouldn't have the raw numbers to get in here, even if the quality was there. But that was kind of an interesting, perhaps snub, but once again, people have their reasons for doing that.
That's a shame.
Yeah, and then what else is particularly crazy? I'm honestly not too shocked by a lot of things. I can go back.
Sorry, the previous one, yeah. Oh, best community sport, No Man's Sky. I like that that's still
there,
popping off there.
Yep.
Cool.
And then ongoing, got Fortnite, Genshin Impact in there again year after year. Interesting spot for Cyberpunk. I could actually see that taking it this year. It usually does go to like the Fortnites of the world, but I can see this being the exception.
I guess it wouldn't, like, when you look at battle royales, obviously Fortnite is in there, makes total sense. But in terms of like a Warzone, that doesn't work because it's like Warzone 1, Warzone 2, and that it's changing up. It's not ongoing, right?
That's interesting as well. I don't know if Call of Duty makes a single appearance on this list anywhere, which the new game might be too new. So we'll talk about that, your opinions on that, whether it's getting snubbed over here, but it might just be too new this year. I mean, I know there's like all these betas and whatnot, but interesting nonetheless. I think indie game is going to be interesting this year to see where that goes because I'm obviously quite partial to Sea of Stars, but I could see it going a couple different ways. And then debut indie, of course, some other good ones in there, which is always cool to see. I thought this was interesting. Mobile game, you got Hello Kitty Island Adventure. It seemed like kind of a random inclusion, but I don't know. Maybe that game's pretty sick. I'm not too into that scene. So this is what I was looking for. Action game. I don't see any Call of Duty here. So yeah, I guess there's none of that game whatsoever. And then that's actually interesting. Armored Core. I kind of forgot about that. I think this is the first time Armored Core pops up for action games. So especially off Elden Ring and Sekiro. So the last two From Software games won Game of the Year at the Game Awards. So interesting that their next one here, which I heard great things about. Maybe it just had a more niche audience, but didn't seem to make as big of a splash here at the awards. Interestingly. Shouts to Dead Island 2. I still want to play that when it is not quite as expensive. And here's our one representation for Starfield here in RPG, which makes sense, but Baldur's Gate is taking that all day long. There's
absolutely.
Once again, we're doing our predictions later, but that's even Final Fantasy's there. It doesn't have a chance. Does not have a chance in hell. I think this will be fun. Fighting game, the battle between Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter 6, I think will be pretty fierce. That'll be a good. It's the fighting game category. It'll be a good fight. But like Pocket Bravery, God of Rock, I've not heard of these games. Usually I've at least heard of the fighting games, even if I haven't played them. And I was kind of surprised. Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2, that came out like days ago. So I don't know. I guess the reviewers had just enough time with it to get it in here. And that's cool that it made, because I can't remember the first one made it into the nominees. I don't know if it's made a big enough splash, but I heard really good things about the sequel. I wish it came out right before our 24-hour stream. I would have loved to pick that up and play it on the stream. That would have been a lot of fun. Oh yeah, there's another. This one also really shocked me. Best sim strategy, Pikmin 4. Not what I think of when I think of Pikmin 4. Like there of course is a strategy element to it, but you normally think of the more hardcore games. But instead, Fire Emblem, of course, making an appearance. Company Heroes 3, Cities Skylines. Yeah, I was really surprised to see Pikmin 4 in this category.
Yeah, no kidding.
Mm-hmm. And I think from here we might be into the. We got a couple more, and then you're kind of into the. Oh yeah, adaptation.
Oh,
we got Twisted Metal.
Adaptation. I like that.
What would you go for here? Actually, that's curious because you actually did watch some Twisted Metal. Did you watch the whole thing? Or?
No, I'm about halfway through. I need to finish that. I haven't seen Gran Turismo. I'd like to, but I feel like this would be I really feel like it'd be between Mario and Castlevania because I know I watched like the first season of that Castlevania show they did on Netflix years ago, and I loved it. And I've only heard great things since, like with all their other iterations.
Shouts to my friend David on Super Switch Head podcast who works on that show.
Oh, cool.
You don't think Last of Us is in the running there?
I do.
Okay.
I think.
You mean for your personal pick, I guess? Between Castlevania and Super Mario?
My personal pick would be Last of Us or Super Mario Bros. Okay. But I think publicly, I feel like Castlevania's got a good running chance.
I mean, it's here, so obviously that means it has numbers. I just think it might be slightly too niche, whereas I feel like everyone in the world saw Mario and Last of Us. And
totally true.
I mean, of course, this is like only reviewers and stuff doing this, so if it made it in here at all, that's impressive, but I don't think Twisted Metal is going to win it. That's my prediction there. Maybe my safe prediction. Anticipated, you got Star Wars Outlaws in there. That's cool. That's
interesting.
Some fanfare for it. I was also surprised to see Tekken because I feel like that's of all the big fighting game IP. I feel like that's maybe one of the more niche ones. So I was kind of surprised to see it make it into the anticipated list when that includes any game ever. So good for them. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then now we're into the content stuff and like esports and whatnot. So any other stuff that we're missing back here? I don't think so.
I'm excited to discuss this with you guys and do our classic like picks and all that.
Yeah, that'll be a really fun fighting game. I want to have that discussion. I'm so excited. There's a few good categories in there that I think will be pretty spicy. So looking forward to that for sure. You know what else released recently was the newest courses for Mario Kart. Did you have a chance to check these out over the weekend? Have you played them yet?
I've not played them yet. Okay. No. They'll be played when I.
You got to play them before next week, of course.
I know when I do my homework.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just quickly I was really. I mean, it's not shocking. I had a really good time with them. There's only one dud in there for me. Is like Daisy's Home. I forget what it's called. It's just some Daisy course. It's just very basic and a bit repetitive, a bit long. So that was kind of the only one that was a bit of a dud. But then all 7, I guess, of the other ones were super fun, really well done. But I mean, the biggest hype moment for me was getting Diddy Kong and Funky Kong in there, because of course I've always wanted more Kong representation in these crossover games. And just like Funky Kong, when you do his jump and you get that, how they do like their little pop off, he like grabs his surfboard and like rolls it around in the air, does something really cool. And I just love Diddy Kong, so it was great to see him in there. So that was definitely the highlight for me. But yeah, I think a good way to close off this round of DLC, and I'm very excited to do that ranking. It's gonna be hard. That's a fucking ton of things to rank. We'll have to kind of we'll have to rip through it. Honestly, we'll have to figure out how we're gonna do that because if we take our time with it, we could be sitting there for 7 hours, and I don't think anyone wants to hear that. So we'll have to figure that format out. But yeah, it was fun to jump back into those courses. And a little bittersweet that it's done now. That's been something I look forward to every 3 or 4 months. A drop of new stuff, talking about what do we want to come, what's going to come. And I think they did a good job of dropping a good amount of extra characters in there for the last update. Because you also had Peachette, which is a weird one, and then Pauline for the character drops in there. So a good final pack.
Good final pack, yeah. I heard rumblings. I'm sure you'll talk about it in the future of like a Mario Kart X on the next Switch or something like that.
Right, like a big bundled version, I guess.
I think like the next iteration. I think or something.
Oh, you
like
a new game, a new.
I think
Mario
so.
game.
Yeah, like a new game. Yeah.
I wonder because with something like that, don't know. Has Mario Kart always been the same development team? That's something I don't know, right? Because it's always a bit tricky with Nintendo because they're like in-house studios and they don't have as like definitive names as like Sony Santa Monica or Studio Bend, or Xbox has all these different ones. It's very easy to differentiate. Oh, I know this team works on this franchise, but with Nintendo, they kind of hide that stuff more. And so I don't know if all those Mario Kart games are always made by the same teams, and if therefore the DLC, you'd think that they'd be pretty busy cooking up all that DLC. But then maybe maybe there was another Nintendo team working on this other Mario Kart game in between, and that can come out, or I don't know, maybe it's still like 3 or 4 years away or something like that. But yeah, I don't know. I think if they were to do like a bundled version of Mario Kart 8, I think they'd still want that DLC to be part of that subscription plan, because that's, I think, a big reason for people to subscribe to Nintendo Switch Online, to get access to those. But yeah, I want to do that discussion at some point too. So maybe sometime after, next time I have you on, we can talk about what the future of Mario Kart could look like. When we have a slow week, we can do that topic, because even like Smash 2, it's like when you do a game like this that is the ultimate version of its series, where it has all the content pretty much, it's like how do you do better than that? And I think you just have to go weird, smaller, different, and go for something kind of experimental. And maybe sales wise it doesn't pop off quite as much, but I feel like you just need to do something like that. And so I feel like both Mario Kart and Smash are gonna have to get pretty creative with their next iteration, because we can't one up what you just released unless you do the bundle version and then add new characters. But especially with Smash, that gets hard with all the rights that are needed for all these DLC characters that come from all these different companies. It gets hard.
Yeah.
Let's see, Taylor, what have you been playing anything other than Call of Duty? Anything else on your Xbox these days you've been jamming?
Anything else? I mean, since I did that Battle Pass completion, what else have I dabbled in?
Played more Mario, anything? Playing in Starfield? Do you actually go back and play Starfield? Has that been on the rocks?
Starfield, I still have it installed. Have not gone back to play it yet. I think it's really just been Call of Duty. Of course, Modern Warfare 3 had to release at this time, right when I felt completed with MW2, and I was going to go into some other things. But I know Assassin's Creed Mirage is on my list, actually. I haven't played a little bit more of it, but I would like to play more of that. Yeah, it's funny because usually when I have other downtime for games, I'm usually dipping back into Mario Party. We double date with friends online and play some Mario Party Superstars and whatnot. So
yeah, that's been a constant for me and Muds too. It seems like we don't go more than, I don't know, 3 or 4 months without jumping in there at some point.
And
totally. Recently we went in just like, we didn't really want to spend the whole time to do a whole board game thing, so we just went into the mini game and just looked through the ones that we haven't done yet. And I was surprised that there was like, even though we've played a bunch of games and I've played a bunch with you guys, or we've done that on stream, there's still like 20 mini games that we had not seen in the game yet. So I was like, man, there is so much in here that we haven't even spotted, just because I guess a random chance of you getting things. So it was fun to do that and just jump in and mess around with some of those mini games.
I am low-key trying to complete everything. When we play with friends, I love getting the coins and just trying to buy everything from the store that they have in the main menu. I don't know what will happen at the end.
Then you have like that constellation screen, right, with all those stars of like...
Yeah, those achievements,
goals,
the goals are difficult because some of them are like get 10 stars in like one game, or get like 3 stars on one dice roll or something. I'm thinking, man, I can't
feel like
do
you'd have
this
to
shit.
collude with like multiple controllers and stuff to get some of those ones.
Totally would have to.
Especially when the reward is like, there isn't really a reward. It's just the reward is you accomplishing this goal, I guess.
You get a star on this menu.
Yeah. It's brutal. I guess, for me, there's been a few. I finally finished Sea of Stars, so I want to do a spoiler discussion with Kirkland on that when he's done. I've still been jumping into Halo pretty consistently, jumping there a couple matches. Still like seeing new maps that I just never got around to when the game first came out, I guess. So that's been cool. Still working my way through Alan Wake. Just went through a really interesting sequence, and really gripped by that game. It's really solid, other than the technical hiccups, which there was a huge patch for it, which I was salty because this patch kind of popped up. I was talking to you about this patch popped up out of nowhere, and I couldn't play the game until the patch would happen. But then the game just wouldn't update, even though I had space. It was really frustrating. So that happened. That slowed me down a little bit, but I've been going through it, and just super good game. And that patch did seem to fix a lot of the audio bugs. I don't think since that patch I've had any glitches actually. So that's good. It seems like a lot of stuff that I was complaining about in that review last week has maybe been fixed. So I don't know. Hopefully that's across the board. Of course, there's still gonna be some bugs that sneak through there. But then the main new game that I have been jumping into is another new Game Pass title that came out about a couple weeks ago at this point called Jusant. Jusant. We saw this at, I want to say, Summer Game Fest was maybe.
I think so.
I don't know if it got shown off prior to that, but I think this one was kind of like it was announced pretty close to release and came out soon thereafter. And yeah, so for anyone who doesn't remember, this is kind of a simplistic art style climbing game where you are just a little guy and before you is this massive mountain and you're just climbing up. And that's pretty much it. Like, it's a very basic game. There's no combat to it. There is a little bit of story. There's like notes and little things, but I think it's more about the atmosphere and the vibe of it. And the story is more just you overcoming this obstacle rather than there being like a straightforward story. Like the main character doesn't speak, anything like that. You have a little companion, but he more is just like a cute little creature that just makes noises and points at things rather than, ingesting story into the game in that way. But yeah, I feel like this is a really great setting or a great goal in games is just like climbing a mountain, because inherently it's just like a good goal to strive for, and it's a big monumental task. Like Celeste as a platformer, all about just climbing this mountain, or even in a game like Breath of the Wild, that's very much about just climbing mountains or climbing high Hrothgar in Skyrim, things like that. I just feel like I like that setting. I just love climbing a good mountain, so this has that good aesthetic part to it. But then I think for me, the biggest intrigue of this game is that it seemed like mechanically, the climbing mechanics were, of course, that's what the whole game is. Like I said, no combat. There's nothing really else to do in the game. So it's really all about those climbing mechanics. And I've been just obsessed with climbing for the last couple of years here. And so I really wanted to see what that is. And so I think gameplay-wise, the closest thing I would compare this to in terms of those climbing mechanics would be something like a Death Stranding, because Death Stranding just puts so much focus on how you control the game and how you interact with just the very basic things of movement and carrying weight and shuffling weight around your body and not falling over. And I loved that part of that game. I mean, I love that game in general. And so the controls feel very similar in that way, where, Death Stranding, you like the left and right trigger are literally just your right and left hand. And so you like do that to like hold onto your pack to secure it, or to throw something, you like hold the right trigger, use the punch button, and then like let go of the grab button. And that's how you throw stuff, which is, really fun. And this game kind of has a similar thing too, where the left and right trigger are your left and right hands. And so it has like a very rhythmic sensation of when you're climbing just like a very simple section of it, and you're just like letting go, grabbing onto the next one. And then you get into some like really nitty gritty when it gets to like the harder moments of the game, where it's like, ooh, I gotta like reposition. So like I'm holding this with my right hand, but I'm gonna bring my left hand up, grab that instead, and then reach my right hand out, because I can actually reach this next hold if I do it that way. And even though the control stick doesn't move your hands around, it's more just like the right triggers are, your character will kind of always reach where you want to go, like 99% of the time. It seems to be pretty solid in that way. So I'm really liking it in terms of that. One thing that's maybe slightly disappointing is I was kind of hoping there would be a bit more of control over like your feet and your movement of your feet, because that's just such a big part of climbing. If anything, that's like more important than where your hands are. It's crazy how important that is to it. And I feel like there could be some really cool gameplay mechanics tied to that if there was control over your feet, but they more just kind of follow behind. And there's even been a couple moments where my character like reaches his foot out really far to like grab something and pull me in. And it's like, man, I wish I had that level of control to be able to do that, because that's such a fun element of climbing, but it's not really fully there. But I also get it to an extent. Like if you had all four limbs, it would be like Quap or like I Am Bread, like that janky game where it's like if you get too granular with the movement, I think it becomes more of a janky physics goofy fest, and that wouldn't really fit the vibe of what this game is trying to be. And because of that, like because it is more simplistic and it's mostly just those two controls, you are moving through this game like at a pretty good pace for the most part, unless you're stuck or you're on a difficult section. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it so far. It even has like resting is interesting, because normally in these games you have kind of like a stamina bar, and if you run out of stamina, you just like fall off the wall, and there's really nothing you can do about that. But in this game, like anywhere that you have a good position, you can just like rest. Your character will like shake out his arms. The animation is just like perfect. It's perfectly accurate as for the climbing experience of it. So I really like that part of the game. And yeah, I'm just in. It's just a very peaceful game, because there's no like really HUD in the game. There's no like objective markers. It's just like I can generally see where I'm supposed to go, and I'm just kind of peacefully climbing this. And maybe I'll get into a more stressful or tricky situation, or I'm gotta really watch my stamina here. But for the most part, it's just like a very peaceful, like therapeutic experience. So I'm really enjoying it. It even seems like some moments really open up into like there's multiple routes to go, or some sections I get to where there's like 3 or 4 ways I can go, and I don't really know which one is I'm supposed to go to, and I just pick one, and then I'll end up going that way, and that like seems to be the critical route, and I'm going, an hour passes. I'm like, I wonder what would have happened if I went like to the right there instead. And so I don't know. Maybe there is multiple ways around this mountain, or maybe ways connect back in sections I'm not seeing. But maybe that's just like a replayability thing too. I mean, there's like collectibles, so maybe I'm just missing collectibles. But it seems like more often than not, I end up just, I guess, without even really knowing it, maybe it's just my intuition is picking the critical route, and I'm going the right way. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of like hidden caverns and whatnot that you're finding. But yeah, I think they just do a good job of like adding fresh little mechanics in there. Like when you're in direct sunlight, your character like burns out quicker, and certain holds aren't as good. There's like little bug rock creatures that are kind of crawling along the landscape, so you have to like grab onto those, and they almost like ferry you around. So it seems like, and then even just the mechanics of using your rope and like swinging certain times and being really precise of where you like put your next pit in the wall so that you can get your next spot where your rope's going to hang, and how that'll get your next spot is really cool. So yeah, definitely a big recommendation for me. I don't know how expensive the game is typically, but as for a Game Pass pick, I think absolutely pick it up. And it's one of those games, in the first 20 minutes, you'll know if you're going to be into this game, if you're going to like it. I think for a lot of people, it might be a bit too lo-fi, I guess, in the mechanics, but for me, it's like a perfect something to play kind of. I'm not quite ready for bed yet, but I don't want something super intense that's going to, drive my heart rate up, and I can just play this for a while. So, yeah.
How long do you think it is?
I don't know. I'm on chapter 4, which has maybe been like an hour and a half or 2 hours in, and if I had to guess, I'd say it's like probably going to be no more than 8 hours. But the mountain is so big and it's like directly above you. I can't really tell how far along I am. So I don't know. I haven't looked at how long to beat on this. So I really, really have no idea how long it's going to be. I feel like also just because of, once again, the somewhat simplicity of the controls, I feel like they don't want it to go on too long, right? Because then eventually you get kind of burnt out. You want to kind of see the end of it. Yeah, so I'm not sure, and I don't know if the game ever like switches up its format, because I feel like there are a lot of ways that you're opening up ropes for like a section you just climbed. So I guess if you wanted to go back down and explore, you could. But I don't know if this game's going to have one of those situations where you climb to the top and then there's like this switch moment where you have to now get to the bottom of the mountain again. Ooh. And I feel like that actually could be really interesting with the way the game is set up, and I think it would be a fun thing, and it'd be like a lot quicker and probably a lot easier. So I don't know if that's going to be part of it too. So we'll see about that. But yeah, definitely a big recommendation for me. Really, really solid, really fun time. And I think not just because I'm a climber. I think it's also just a fun gameplay situation as well.
I'm glad you're enjoying, because I remember when they unveiled that and you were intrigued by it immediately. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad that it's proving to be very enjoyable for you.
Yeah, it's solid. How about with that, we take our first break, and we'll be right back. Okay, we are back. Taylor Field, you have been playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 for, I feel like, weeks at this point, because you had the beta, and like they were releasing different things at different times. I've heard a lot of mixed reception, maybe even negative reception on this game. So where are you at with this? And I guess, how much have you got to play this new game yet? Because I know you've been working through that Battle Pass in Modern Warfare 2, so you've been splitting your time a bit. But yeah, how much have you played of this, and what do you think so far?
I think I've played enough, and there's still a few things that I need to explore, particularly with the zombies. But I've gone through the campaign. As far as I'm aware, because I've not completed the campaign is incredibly short. And I can attest to that, because I'm like 4 missions in. I'm not sure how many missions there are total. Each mission, I feel like I'm done in 10 minutes, if that.
Really?
It's
That's crazy.
so quick. Yeah, and it's a shame, because I really appreciate how open world these missions feel. A lot of them are almost feels like I'm in a war zone map, because it's an open area. There's different objectives that pop up, and I can just kind of make my way there. There's crates I can open up, and I can get gear up, armor plates, find weapons, stuff like that. And then there's just different things, different different goals you have on the map to complete the mission.
So are those ones still quick, even though they're more open areas?
They're very, very quick. Yeah.
Yeah.
That again, that one that I did was like 10 minutes. It felt like
That's
it was so
crazy.
fast.
Even
Yeah.
with like doing some bonus objective things, it was still just like get through it real quick.
Yeah, and it's a
Hmm.
shame because I feel like when I play MW2, MW 2019, those ones were really, really like extended missions, but they were great. They were really high octane and entertaining. But this one's just really, really fast. Even the intro, I thought, okay, this is just the prologue. That's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to be fast, but no, it's very fast. And I thought, okay, no, this is like the first mission, and we're going into mission 2. And I did the campaign when they first allowed the public to start playing it, and so when I thought like I'll play for half an hour before bed, and I called it a night, I was like, man, yeah, I really got through a lot. This is quite shocking, actually. So that's a con that I have.
Hmm.
Um, and I normally, once the multiplayer comes out, it takes me a while to get back to the campaign. So I just kind of,
Yeah.
it takes some
Naturally.
time. And of course, yeah, I'm playing the multiplayer quite a bit. The zombies is nice because the zombies feels like it's a build up from what they were building in the, I guess the Black Ops games and Cold War. And I appreciate that, but I also miss the simplicity of that old school zombies where you just have
Hmm.
an area and maybe not even a pack a punch, not even any perks, but you just got to board up those windows and just kind of hold
Yeah.
the zombies out. I think that's very simple and it was beautiful, but nowadays it's a lot more high intensity and crazy,
It's
so
complex, man. There's so many
it's very
fucking doors and
complex.
perks and systems. It's
I
crazy.
know it's so crazy, but I do like how simple this does feel. It doesn't feel as stressful as each wave kind of accelerates and accelerates because in this sense, and I haven't played enough of the other zombies and the other Call of Duties to really make that full comparison. Well, I know that some of those maps did have the boarding up the windows and the round survival. It also had the option to exfile, and so you can get to like round 20, you can get to round 25, and you can exfile in between uh those rounds. And exfile just means you leave and
Right.
you finish. And it's okay in theory, but I liked it more when it was on the open world. And I think Cold War did that, where it's very open world zombies, where you have vehicles, this big map, you're going around. There's tons of different zombie types that you're fighting, and
Hmm.
you're everything you do, you're leveling up your character, you're working on leveling up your guns, all that jazz. So that's cool, and I like how the X filing works in there. And so this version has really built off of that, where you have your squad. In my case, the times I've played, I usually spawn in solo, and then I find other people online, and I just join in with them, and I can
Okay.
join in their squad while we're playing, which is nice. But you start off and you're in like a low level area. It's a very easy kind of place to survive. There's mystery boxes around the map you can
Hmm.
get, and there's objectives that you can do too. And so you do these objectives and you clear out certain areas and then get your guns upgraded. And if you choose to, you can go to a higher, intenser area where the zombies are stronger. There's new zombie types there. You can go further and further and further. And the map size is huge. It's wonderful. Vehicles and all that,
Oh wow.
and you can get to some really intensely hard areas, but you have about, I think it's like a 30-minute 40-minute timer in a round. I think it's that long, and so you do as much as you can. And there are other teams around here. It's only PvE, it's not PvP, but there are other teams operating, so it's got quite a few players in this little world. You do as much as you can, as best you can, and then eventually you trigger an exfil, and you basically, the helicopter comes in and you got to board the
Hmm.
helicopter. The zombies are chasing at you, and you get out and you get to keep your loot. You can upgrade certain things. Yeah, they have perks
Oh.
that are in here as well,
You
like
keep your
speed
loot, so
cola.
then like the next. Do you mean like the next time you jump in, like you have a bunch of gear going in?
No, it's kind of like, if I understand, you collect things as like a currency, and you can use that currency to upgrade certain things in the zombies menu. I believe that's how it works. I'm still trying to figure it out because they've done a few things, even regular multiplayer, where you do your daily challenges and those unlock points that you use to unlock other gear. It's new, and I'm trying to
Yeah.
figure it out. It eludes me a little bit.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
but
interesting. So I don't like what are you playing for? Because I feel like zombies then to me has always been about just building up that intensity, seeing how long you can last. So I don't know. Like I just feel like the exfiltrations, even if they're well done, I just feel like that would take away so much of the tension, I guess,
and it
of what the
does.
mode is kind of built for.
I think it's you. you want to get those upgraded guns more powerful, and you want to go and you want to fight the more intense, crazier bosses. And I think there's a lot of completionist factors as well,
Okay,
because
there's a lot
you
of like
can
objectives and things
there's a
to
lot of
accomplish.
different objectives you can do, but I think also outside of the game mode, you have weapon skins, and that's always been a thing that they've
Oh
had.
yeah.
Where I think back in Black Ops they did it where you can do multiplayer and rank up your guns in multiplayer and unlock skins for doing like 35 kills. 50 kills, 100
Yeah.
kills, 1,000 kills, then you get this skin. Well, the same thing applies in zombies modes too, where you can do kill 35 zombies, kill 100 zombies, 1,000 zombies. Then you get cool zombie alternative weapon skins. And I know a lot of people, completionists, they go for those sorts of things. So,
That makes sense. Yeah.
to my knowledge, that's the only real incentive there is. But I know I've spoken to some of my friends where they're thinking like, yeah, it's you play it and eventually it just kind of it simmers off pretty quick. There's not much pull to draw you back in. So
Yeah. How does it work with like vehicles? Like if the maps are that big and open, like how are you ever getting hit by a zombie? I feel like you could just kite them forever in that kind of environment.
the vehicles are same Warzone mechanics, so you have to fuel up. They can take damage, all that jazz. Zombies can do damage, like the more powerful zombies can do damage. But I've found there's a few times where I've been caught off guard, and zombies will just appear. You can run over the smaller, easier zombies,
Yeah.
but there's hellhounds. There's lots of stuff that can really
Right.
derail you. The other thing you have to be careful of is there are AIs. So yeah, zombies aside, there are AI soldiers. I was running around and there was like a convoy of 3 armed vehicles, and they were loaded up with like AI like soldiers that open fire on you, and like
Interesting.
squads are
Okay.
patrolling and moving through. So that was a lot of fun. At first I thought like, man, this is like enemy teams are coming
Yeah, some
after me, but
griefers, yeah.
yeah, but no, so it's AI, and that just tries to, I guess, make it a little bit more tricky for you.
Is there a standard map of any kind, or is it really just this one more open exfiltration designed one?
As far as I've played, it's just the one main
Okay.
exfil map. Yeah.
Do you think you'll spend much time with that mode? Are you into the new zombies, or do you still more? Do you have a more soft spot for the old school style?
I have a soft spot for the old school stuff. I am into this, but mostly just because I'm going to be trying to unlock some things. I want
Right,
to
for
see
a
some
gun
other.
that you care about. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But other than that, I think it's going to wear off pretty quick. Like you said, with the X filing that's been added, it's not as high octane. It's not as intense where you have a group of 3 other guys with you making 4, and you're just trying to hold out, and you're not looking forward to getting to that end point. All you know is you're just surviving, and
Yeah, okay.
that's so different from playing those old school maps, and you're like round 20, then you get to round 30, you get up to
Yeah.
like 35. It's like, man, this is intense. We're just gonna keep going though. We can't stop. And now it's like, well, now we know we can stop. We're gonna get to the exfil 25 minutes in, and then we call it a night. So
That's a good point. Like I think that is a good, at least option to have in there, because that's always been something. Especially when me and my friends were like hardcore into Black Ops and trying to beat each other's records. Like we were getting to a point where it's like you have to have a 4-hour long run if you were gonna get further than what you did before. So you obviously back in high school, it was like I had time to do that because I could stay up on a Friday night or something. But yeah, I think it is a good option to be able to have that mode in shorter bursts, and you know how much time you're signing up for. So I think that is a good option to have at least in there. But yeah,
For
I
sure.
feel like it's hard for me to envision what this mode really looks like now. I'd have to try it out to see how it really works. But it's interesting nonetheless. Does it kind of what was the in Modern Warfare 2? What were the name of those like side missions you could do like co-op?
yeah, they had co-op stuff, and then they also had DMZ.
I mean like an old school modern, like the original Modern Warfare 2.
Oh,
What the
yeah,
hell was
you had to
that
get like
called?
the three stars
was
on
it
each
Spec Ops?
one.
Was it called
Spec Ops, yeah.
Does this new Zombies kind of hit those kind of feelings for you, where you're going in, it's like a little bit of co-op, you're trying to complete goals? Because I don't know, this just sounds like so much not like Zombies to me.
No, I'd put Spec Ops over this for sure.
Okay.
Like in terms of like feeling,
Yeah.
and especially enjoyment and excitement. That
Yeah.
Spec Ops that hit home, like
Right.
doing the snowmobile race down the mountain, trying to get 3 stars on there,
Yeah.
like stuff like that was
Yeah, trying
so
to get
fun.
those max stars. The one
Yeah.
with like I forget what it's called, but like the heavily armored dude in that small little favela kind of town area.
Juggernauts.
Yeah, my God, I remember there's
Yeah.
like 3 or 4 of them or something like that. I remember
Yeah.
that. So many just trying to plan out how we could possibly achieve those. Those were
Yeah.
fun goals back in the day. Talk to me about the multiplayer then, because that's how, I guess, where you spent most of your time.
Hmm.
How's that going? And I guess even just fill me in, like, how close is this to the original Modern Warfare 3, or is it just the name? Because I get so confused now with where Call of Duty's at with
Just
renaming their games.
just the name, I'd say.
Okay,
In terms of feeling, it's
it's not like
exponentially
bringing back
different.
the old maps or old guns or mechanics.
Well,
There's a bit of that.
it's
Because there's
brought
always like an
back.
AK-47, of course. There's always going to be some continuity stuff between
Oh, of
these games.
course. In terms of guns, I'm not recognizing any familiar ones from those older Modern Warfare titles. The things I'm recognizing are the maps, and they did good. They brought all these
Okay,
old maps from that 2009 era, MW2,
right.
MW3, and so you like as soon as Wasteland popped in, I was like, oh,
Oh
this is
man,
beautiful. I'm
good
loving
times.
this.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's so
Nuke
many
City on that
awesome ones.
map.
It's just wonderful. So those are definitely a plus. Some of the maps I did feel like they don't work, and maybe I think I'm just biased because I just never liked them to begin with. But I will say that, okay, positively though, the maps are great.
Mm-hmm.
Gun wise, that is kind of a downer for me, and this is where, and I think you might have heard this from if you've heard people talking about ups and downs of this game, is it really feels like an $80 expansion pack for MW2.
Okay.
And I do stand by that notion because it's you boot up that multiplayer. I see all my old operators in there, which is fantastic. I think the port over is wonderful. I love it. And then I
Mm-hmm.
see all my new operators in there, which I got my hot and ready title. So that's basically I bought a Little Caesars
Yeah.
pizza and I got my Little Caesars operator in there. He's amazing. It's great. It's wonderful. So that's awesome. But then when you go into the guns, I see, okay, they got a smaller amount of new guns that you can get with this game. And then I can see the back half of like all my old guns that I've leveled up, and all of them, the levels are still there. The attachments are all still there. And I applaud them for how well that they've done a job at implementing this kind of like combination of everything, because all the attachments that I've worked so hard to unlock on
Mm-hmm.
SMG mods and battle rifle mods, all this different stuff that you can cross over with other variants of guns. When I have new guns that have been introduced in MW3, those attachments also work on these MW3 guns, which is very cool. But they also have new attachments that I can unlock, and I don't know if I can apply them to the old guns. I have to check, but it's just the weapon tuning and the weapon building is like, oh my god, it's beautiful. There's so much customization available, so I
Nice.
applaud them at that. But then when you get into the multiplayer, you have the map voting, which is great. I really am happy to see that come back. But there's some things that don't look great. And when I see online that, hey, they only had, I think, a year they were told to actually pump this game out, that's very
Yeah.
disheartening, because I can see things that are unfinished. When I win a game, it'll be like Vittery, or I lose, it'll be like defee. Like there's letters missing out of it.
Oh
The
my
score
god,
is like
that's
disappearing.
crazy.
It's horrible. And then again, Wasteland, for example, the grass is like seizuring, like flicking
Oh my
strobing out,
god.
and it's like, oh, this is not what you want to see. There's lots of little things that need a little bit of quality of life
Yeah,
improvements on.
that's not enough time to make a AAA game, even if it's like
Hmm.
using the same engine and carrying over assets. That's just when you're making a campaign and zombies and multiplayer content. That's not enough time. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see the future of Call of Duty, I guess specifically on just like the Xbox ecosystem, because obviously the way they've been doing this stuff, it's so iterative, and it's one of the few series that is releasing a new game every year, because obviously Assassin's Creed cooled off on that because they wanted to spend more time on these games, and that worked out well for them. But Call of Duty, like, yeah, you're probably exactly correct that it is just essentially an expansion, but then they're going to charge $80 for it because there's still people that are going to buy that so much, and still going to be like one of the best selling games of the year. So until people actually put their foot down and stop buying these things every year, they're just going to keep doing it, you know.
Hmm.
They need another year of this thing. Who cares? We'll put it out the door anyway. We'll get our $80, and then people are going to cry for a couple weeks, but then they'll buy the, you know, World at War remake next year, and not, you know, eventually, you know, they're still going to have something to go for. So
Yeah,
it's too bad, but that's just the machine at this point. I guess it's going to keep going like that
it is.
until it won't, and that's where something like Game Pass. I don't know. I don't know if you're still going to buy Call of Duty games going forward, because I know you still, even with the Game Pass, like to get some physical versions of things. Like that just seems like so much better of a system where it's a subscription thing. It's part of my subscription. I'll go and check the new Call of Duty, and it's cool that my stuff carries forward. But then you don't have to drop $80 every year on it. So that'll be
If they put Call
nicer
of
for
Duty
a lot
on
of people.
if they put Call of Duty on Games Pass, I will easily make that
Oh
jump.
yeah.
I haven't bought a physical Call of Duty since 2019. That was the
Okay.
last one. So I've
Right.
been doing digital this whole
Yeah.
time. And like with MW2, I did the more expensive Vault Edition. And so I thought, well,
Yeah.
do I want to do the Vault Edition here? And I'm a big sucker for porting things over. When you look at MW 2019, after that it was Cold War, after that was Vanguard, all of those titles, everything that they had on available, all were implemented into Warzone. I thought, well, I play Warzone a lot. This is great, and I want to keep up with that. And I spent so much time in multiplayer. That's where I rank up my guns, and I work so much leveling up. So it was justified for me. And now this go around, it's it's interesting because it's not really for Warzone's sake while I'm doing that. It's just because I like the idea of it like moving forward and carrying forward into the base game itself this time, and not just with Warzone. Uh, there's a few things I don't think have ported over into Warzone 2 yet from MW3, like notably the operators. I have not been able to access my operators in there yet. Some of the gear I haven't been able to access, and I am having trouble trying to unlock things that I already had. Like I had trophy systems, I had flashbangs, Semtex, and that's all stuff that I need to figure out how to unlock because you get 3 daily challenges. You have to complete your daily challenges, and then you have to make sure that you have selected a task that they will apply to. So you have a whole list of tasks, basically guns and equipment and perks, and basically it says, hey, this perk requires 3 challenges to be completed, 3 daily challenges. This one is 5 daily challenges and whatnot. So you have to select that, and it puts it into a queue, and then you do your 3 daily challenges, and then that'll apply to unlocking it. If you don't, then the unlocks that you do for the daily challenges don't go to anywhere. It's
so
very
dumb.
weird. It's dumb.
So
Yeah,
dumb.
very weird. But that's really one of my only cons. I'm trying to figure out how they have other things in place too with their perk system and whatnot. But it's cool just to have my old guns there. They testing them out too, ones that work, ones that don't work, and then trying to figure out, okay, what's the new meta, and change up the dynamic a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. How much are you going to play this versus start working on Modern Warfare 2 or Warzone stuff? How much do you think you'll actually go to this one in the foreseeable months or whatnot?
I'm it plays like MW 2019 for me, and I like that because there's certain movements with sliding and like crouching and whatnot that I really appreciate that MW2 didn't really do. I can see myself playing this a lot because MW2 I feel like I've kind of capped out on that. Like I'm level 750, and I've gotten most yeah, I've gotten most of my guns pretty much like fine-tuned where I want them. So this is definitely something that I'll probably sink in a few more hours and just keep working away on. Especially just to keep up with Warzone, because Rebirth Island's going to be coming back soon. That's going to be a huge pull for me. So I want to make sure that whatever guns that I need to have access to, I have access to. They're ready to go. They have the attachments I need them to have. And right now I'm in that stage where like, okay, I need to see what is a good quick scoping rifle. And I look and I'm like, oh, I don't have this one unlocked. I don't know how the hell I'm going to unlock this, but I have to figure it out. And so I don't like being caught in these situations where I got to like, I don't have access to it. I want to have access to it. I want to be fine tuning it, because when I'm in between those Warzone games, I'm working on my classes.
Right. Yeah. I was trying to jump in last night to play some Warzone, but then I had to go in and update my game, and then I had to like uncheck the Modern Warfare 3 campaign, which had checked itself, because I guess anytime like there's something new added in, it like just automatically will like put it in that select list. So I had to uncheck that, but then it, I guess, had to re-download from scratch. So it was like 120 gigs, and I just was not going to have enough time for that. So I didn't end up doing that. I just played some Alan Wake instead.
I can't imagine, like, I was telling Travis, like, okay, well, I can't imagine what it really is, aside from if it's a whole new COD game, sure, you're going to get the guns and a bunch of other things implemented into Warzone. That makes sense. But the operators aren't there. You're not playing on a bunch of other maps. Like, how, like, are they forcing you to download the full base game? Because that's what it looks like.
I know, it's I mean, like I said, I have to go in there and like manually unselect things that I want or don't want.
Mm-hmm.
But it's weird that I don't know. I expected some sort of update with the launch of Modern Warfare 3, but it's just all very confusing. The way they went from Warzone 1 to 2, and then there's these multiple games, and like some of them apply to some Warzone, and it's a mess these days, a big old mess.
It is. I will say the menu interface I really do like. I like how it sets up where okay, MW3, you just drop down. Here's Warzone, and it just pops up with Resurgence, Battle Royale, DMZ, all that kind of stuff. That's great. Then you can scroll
Nice.
down again. Then it's got MW2, multiplayer, quick play, everything
Mhm.
you have in there, which is wonderful. I think it's absolutely fantastic. Easy to cycle through, which I really, really appreciate. And then you also have, where was I going to go with that? This being called like Call of Duty HQ is how they labeled it, and I like that because it makes me think, okay, where's this going to lead to? When you see people talking about different focuses on certain Call of Duty games for certain upcoming battle passes, that gets me
Mhm.
excited because then I'm thinking, well, maybe the next battle pass that comes out is going to be focused on like advanced warfare or infinite warfare. There's so
Right.
many Call of Duties that they can really hone in on. That includes operators, that includes guns, like really cool guns that we haven't seen for a while. Different things that really gets me excited, and that's something that would really pull me into MW3 because as far
Mhm.
as I'm concerned, I'm sure MW2 will get updates, but no new content. It's just going to be the
Right. That
next
makes
game and
sense.
so forth.
What do you think they'll do next? Next year's Call of Duty. What do you think that'll be? Now that'll be interesting to see. I have to imagine it launches on Game Pass, and then there's just like a $40 upgrade where you can get like the way that Starfield had that where you could get early access and you got access to the first DLC pack. Redfall had that too. Like I think most Xbox first party AAA games are going to get that kind of treatment going forward, and so I imagine
Hmm.
like there's no way they're not putting Call of Duty on Game Pass. I think going forward they just couldn't this year because of the rights and whatnot. And I know Call of Duty is still going to be on PlayStation, and they said it's coming to Switch, so we'll see what happens there. But it's definitely going to go to those platforms. But I think it absolutely will be on Game Pass day one, and then they'll just have like you can still spend a lot of money and get a bunch of bonus stuff for, so they don't lose those sales. But yeah, what do you think the next? What do you think the next? What do you think they do next year?
We've not had a Call of Duty go into the future for a while, and I understand people don't like it, and it gets very tricky to do. I loved Call of Duty Advanced Warfare that
Mm-hmm.
had exosuits. I
Yeah.
was jiving with it. It was a good time. Black Ops 3, Black Ops 4 were both futuristic. Infinite Warfare was very futuristic. There were space battles in there,
Right.
but I had a heckin' good time with it. So I think
When
that
was
we
the last
might
time they
see
did one of
that.
those?
It had to have been Infinite
Because
Warfare,
what it was
which
Cold War, Modern
was
Warfare 2, Vanguard, Modern Warfare 1. What the hell was before Modern Warfare 1? I don't even remember.
I think it was MW Modern Warfare 2 or sorry, Modern Warfare World War 2, I believe.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Because I felt like, yeah, it hasn't been too long since there's been a World War II setting one. So then maybe before that was one
Yes.
of the futuristic ones? So what, 6 years ago-ish?
Infinite Warfare was 2016. Yeah, so that stacks with it. World War 2 came out 2017. Black Ops 4 was 2018. So I would say
Oh,
Black
okay.
Ops 4 was futuristic,
Oh,
but
okay.
Infinite Warfare was I'd say leagues further in terms of
Right.
being
That makes
futuristic.
sense. So yeah, I guess it's been a while since they've done that. I guess it's been longer since they've done that than even the World War II setting, which is of course every once in a while they're going to return to that setting because that's very classic. Um,
Yeah.
so
Good
yeah,
lord.
I could see them doing that because I guess there was only ever Modern Warfare 3. It was the last Modern Warfare game, and then they went Infinite or Advanced Warfare at that point, right? Um,
Yeah, because they did
mhm.
three. They did Black Ops 2, Ghosts, and then Advanced
They
Warfare.
haven't done a re. I mean, I guess none of these new Modern Warfares are actually like remakes. They're just like new games that are using the same moniker. I was gonna say like I feel
Hmm.
like World at War was so popular, and I feel like they haven't gone back to that. But I guess anytime they go back to World War II, they're in a way going back to that. And zombies is kind of
Essentially.
just goes across Call of Duty games at this point in terms of keeping that alive.
Yeah, essentially. Black Ops feel has always been like the spiritual sequels
Hmm.
to that original World at War title.
Yeah. So yeah, I could see them doing that next. That might be. Ooh, what do you think? Because I'm trying to. I guess since they've done the battle royales, they haven't had one of those futuristic games. So that could be there could be big potential there in terms of what you're saying with exosuits, even bringing some freaking mechs and different things. Like I feel like
That'd
that
be
could
cool.
be that could be a good way to go for them. That'd be pretty fun.
Yeah, and there's so many members of the fan base that are going to be like, Taylor, shut up. We don't need exosuits. We don't need mechs. I'm sorry. I think that it was a very fun dynamic, and it was what Call of Duty needed to just kind of change the current
Right.
same old vibe.
Oh yeah, it's so hard to keep it fresh with a game like that year after year. And it's like,
Yeah.
what? Okay, if they release one that's you don't really care for, the next one will be back to something, back to formula, so to speak. And like they release
Exactly.
these games so freaking often, and you're still always gonna get new content for Warzone. They're not gonna ever get rid of Warzone 2. Well, they will eventually, but not while. If they introduce this weird futuristic Warzone, they're not gonna get rid of the classic style until they have the like Warzone 3 come out, kind of thing. So
Mm-hmm.
I think there's so much content there for Call of Duty fans. You're forever nourished.
Yeah, you're covered. It still blows my mind that they snuck out a Call of Duty World War II title, because it just, I feel like we had so many of those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, people like those weapons. Those
Yeah.
classic feel, the bolt action and all that.
Yeah.
Anything else on this game that you wanted to mention?
Um, I don't recommend it unless you are diehard. Like, if you're going in and you need to get those unlocks, those grinds and whatnot, and you justify how much time you put into a Call of Duty game, by all means, do it, enjoy it. You'll not be disappointed. But if you are just thinking about it, it's gonna be a Christmas gift for your kids, something like that. No. Pick a
Very
different game.
skippable. Yeah.
Very skippable. They will survive playing Warzone.
Yeah.
They
right.
can rank the guns up there. Warzone does everything that it'll scratch that itch for Call of Duty
Yeah.
for sure.
I guess that's kind of like that's a good way to put it. Like, is for any new Call of Duty game going forward, like, should you buy this or should you just play Warzone this year?
Mhm.
Like, I feel like that's a good way to look at it. And I guess for this one, it sounds like it's somewhat skippable. But
Mhm.
I'm excited in the future to be jumping into these games since they'll have that Game Pass. Because obviously I've played a lot of Warzone, but like I would jump in there and check out some of this campaign stuff. I definitely am always keen to play some zombies, and even just go back to some of that classic multiplayer play with you. And I'm sure Travis and Kirkland, like I don't know, going forward, the Game Pass makes it a lot easier for all of us to jump in, other than just Warzone, which is what we've. Other than that, like that's kind of. I guess Kirkland did pick up Modern Warfare too, but otherwise we're kind of all just in there for the Warzone stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was fun to hear about. I think that's gonna do it for us. A little short and sweet episode of Sidequest today, but don't worry, because next week we will have, I guess, 2 episodes. I think I'm gonna do a bonus little Game Awards thing, casting my votes as well at some point. So I don't know when that'll be. So you definitely have a lot to listen to over here on the Sidequest side of things. Thank you everyone for listening, and we'll see you again next time. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.